Hello everybody, this is the Stormy Poet coming to you with this edition of the Levels of Love Tips. Very glad you could join me today. This is edition number 12. I'm starting to kind of rack up these podcast episodes now, which is a great thing. I love giving information. I love sharing my knowledge base about relationships while also taking systematic racism into account and talking about how it has affected those, but also giving general relationship guidance as well. By the way, today's episode was brought to you by thestormypoet.com as well as rootofalllove.com, where you can find all these podcast episodes, and also on that SoundCloud /The Stormy Poet, where you can actually download the episodes of this podcast. Very glad you could join me today once again. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time of day it is. I hope your day is flowing smoothly like I put in most of my emails that I send out if you've ever messaged me. And we're going to get right to it. Today what I wanted to talk about, which I'm pretty sure many of you already seen the title, is the first date, going out versus staying in. And by the way, while it's on my mind, also with those two websites I mentioned, please check out the mission statements on those. I've revamped those mainly because, as you journey through life, you learn more. My perspectives have changed drastically throughout the years in regards to, things like racism and politics and stuff like that. So I kind of had to revamp my About Me sections or my mission statement sections on my websites, if you will, to kind of better depict what my goal is as a writer, as an informer, as a truth sayer, so to speak. So if you get a chance, and I really want the people to know what my particular goal is, why I ask for the contributions, and what my ulterior motives are. So on rootofalllove.com, if you go to the link at the top of the page, why I made the Levels of Love, click on that link and you can kind of see a lot better or get a better depiction of what my mission is. Also on thestormypoet.com, you can click on the link at the top, get to know the Stormy Poet, which speaks a little bit more on that. Both those websites complement each other, but that's neither here nor there. With no further ado, tonight what the topic is for this show, this evening, the first date, going out versus staying in. Now, this particular topic was inspired by a friend of mine. I'm not going to put any names out there, but you listening to this, you know who you are. And we got on the topic. To be honest with you, I can't remember the exact conversation and how it got to that. But we got on the topic of, is it cool for a dude to ask you on the very first date, is it cool for him to ask you to the crib for the first date? Like to have the actual first date at the house. And again, I can't remember the conversation, but basically I was of the opinion, I think that's actually the best place to have the first date. That's just me. And she was of the opinion, there's no way I'm going to a guy's house on the first date, which is the opinion, would be the opinion of most. This individual actually did an Instagram poll. Now, I'm not on Instagram, so I don't know how the polls work, but from what she told me, the results were, she posed that question, is it polite, or is it weird, or is it creepy to ask, a lady to your crib on the first date? And overwhelmingly, people were like, yes, it is. It's inappropriate. She showed me some of the comments. One of the comments was like, yeah, if you're a prostitute. And I was just like, come on, now, y'all just doing the most at this point. That's a tad bit much. I mean, if you go to a guy's house on the first date, you're a Nazi. It was those types of just over the top reactions for a couple of the people on there. Now, there was a couple of people that said, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking out there. Especially if you're a lady listening, and maybe a dude. We have to worry about things too. I'll get into that later. But if you're a lady listening, I know what your reaction to what I've said is. If you think that it's weird or creepy or whatever, I get it. I understand why. I understand the dynamics of why that might appear rude or creepy or inappropriate. And the reason I wanted to do this episode was not because not to try to convince women that this is the way to do it, or not to try to convince women that it's okay for a man to do that. The reason I wanted to do this is because I wanted women to question, and men too. I wanted women and men to learn to question different things in regards to figuring out if someone's trustworthy or not. Because here's the thing, especially to you ladies. A man could take you out on 5 or 6 dates and still take you back to the crib and murder you and chop you up. And eat you, or do whatever kind of perverted, weird, twisted stuff. That still can happen. So I take a little drink of my water. So that still can happen. And I feel that a lot of women put a lot of stock into that. If he takes me out to here and such, and we go out on a couple of dates and I get to know him better, then I can finally go back to his crib. Because I trust that he's not going to do anything to me. I have to feel this person out. And I can tell you, there's men out there that know that and that can put on this facade and still brutally and horribly murder you. So I think that's a bad place to put all your stock in. I think it's a bad idea to put all your trust into that. And I wanted to give some other behavioral attributes that a man can exhibit, or some characteristics that a man exhibits that can kind of give you a better depiction if they're trustworthy or not. Because I feel a lot of women miss these. Based off what I've seen in what I've experienced in the dating world, and what I've seen a lot of people I'm associated with going through, and what I see on TV and all that stuff. So that's why I wanted to do it. It's not to convince women that on the first, if you want a man to meet you somewhere on the first date or whatever, fine. If that's your prerogative and that's your preference, then if the dude's really feeling you, he's gonna go meet you in public. But I did want to give my take on why I think that's the best route to take, is going to the crib on the first date. And the reason I say that, number one, is because I don't know about other men out there. I know about myself. If I were on the first date, and I've been on many first dates before in my lifetime. On the first date, it's important to control the mood. So the mood is conducive to the actual connection that you are making with the woman. And I'm just speaking from a man's perspective. This applies to women too. But the mood helps the connection be made between you and the person that you have some kind of like basic interest in. So what I mean by that is, when you meet somebody, off those first couple of interactions, those little subtle messages that y'all are sending to each other in regards to body language, tone of voice, what you're saying, how you're trying to learn about that person, and those initial reactions, that basic conversation, you've known enough about each other where you say, hey, I want to learn, I want to explore more. And the mood affects all that. When you get to that, if you choose to go to that next level, the mood affects all of that. Now, what determines the mood? Well, first of all, the scenery. At restaurants, especially Italian restaurants, Italian joints, you notice they have the lights a little bit dim. You notice they have, the kind of flowery little settings and stuff like that. They have a certain type of mellow music playing. It's a very romantic vibe. They know that people are going there specifically. They know that people are going there specifically, whether they're on first dates or even, if you've been together a while. But they know that typically it's a romantic situation going on in that particular regard. So they know that affects the mood. And the more romantic the mood is, the stronger of a connection you make on the first date. Because, as the old saying goes, first impressions are everything. If I were to go on a first date, I'm trying to make a very significant first impression on that first date. I don't want to wait till the second date to do that. So when you have it at the house, you can predetermine and set up the mood. You can set the mood up well in advance before the date, as opposed to going somewhere where you don't know what the heck could happen. You can control the environment. You can do all that same stuff that the Italian restaurant or the whatever restaurant does, but you can make it even better. Okay, rather than risking there being some bad food or bad service, you can make the meal and make the service yourself. You can decide what you guys are eating. You can customize it. You can ask her, hey, what kind of food you like? When y'all just generally getting to know each other, and that leads me into my next point that I'll get into. But when y'all just texting back and forth and having some type of conversation, you could, if you're trying to get on the first date, just ask her, hey, what kind of food are you into? Like, what kind of food do you like? Now, fellas, this is very important, and I've had to deal with this, and I want to show you my mess ups so that you don't have to go through them. Always ask a woman what she's allergic to. Even if you're taking her out to a restaurant. If you're taking her out to anywhere on the first date, or you taking her to the crib, or you taking her to the woods or whatever, y'all trying to go hiking or do whatever, always ask if she's allergic to anything. Because if she's allergic to grapes, don't pour no wine on the first date. If she's allergic to tomatoes or whatever, don't make her a pot of spaghetti, man. You got to know that stuff, because you could go and make something and work all day in labor making it, or set up this whatever kind of situation, whatever kind of food or situation or spot that y'all in, and she could be allergic to something that could ruin everything. So that's very important. That's just a little side note, because I've ran into issues where I've made these extravagant dishes, and then come to find out, lady was allergic to marshmallows or something. I'm being silly. Well, nobody was allergic to marshmallows, but you get my point. So you really got to watch out for that. But the thing is, you can customize it. And another thing, when let's say you ask her what her favorite food is, and you make it, that shows her, number one, it shows her that you're hospitable. And that's a very attractive trait in a guy. It's a very, very attractive trait in a woman. But it's also a very attractive trait in a guy as well, for them to be hospitable. Number two, it shows humility. Now, women like confidence in a man. They like a man with somewhat to a degree of some type of bravado. They like a man who's confident in himself and his abilities. But women don't like arrogance. There's a difference. And women love humility. Someone who's humble, someone who can serve to a capacity. What greater service is there to serve someone food? The very thing the sustenance that you need to stay alive. That's a very humble act, especially if it tastes good. Number three, it shows that you have some type of life skills. You're not just some dude who is all about making money and, trying to look hot, trying to work out and look hot. You have some type of life skills. Cooking is not a woman thing. Fellas, stop thinking that. Because I get in my kitchen and cook my butt off. I eat great. I love to cook. I love to explore ingredients and forage and do all this kind of stuff. Man, I love looking for different foods and different combinations. That's art, man. That's not a woman thing. That's a life skill. You need to know how to, if your cooking game is whack, step your cooking game up, fellas. Some of you women too, y'all be whipping up some nonsense. But anyways, you can control the environment. You can control the temperature. You can control the lighting. Some of them restaurants be cold as all get out. Your woman up in there freezing. The young lady you're on a date with is up there freezing her butt off, or it's too hot in there, or the server could be crappy. And that's a reflection on you. If the service is bad, the woman's looking at you like, man, this dude done took me to a whack place. And you gotta explain, it's not like this when I normally go here. I don't even want to get in that situation. I'm not even trying to put myself in that situation if I'm single. So there's that. You can control the environment, and you can really set the mood and set the tone of the date, man. And that just goes a long way. A woman will always remember the first time y'all met, and the first date, and the first genuine, intimate interaction y'all had. That's going to stick with her forever, so you better do a damn good job on it. And the thing is, you can do that the best at the house. What sense does it make to pay somebody to do that when you can do it yourself? I just think that's kind of asinine. But the other reason I think it's best to go to the crib is there's less distractions. Now I guess that kind of goes along with the mood thing, with the vibe. There's less distractions. You know, one of the thing I've always said to people is never go to the first date, never go to the movies on a first date. Because during the first date, there needs to be verbal. You know, verbal is the main one, but there needs to be face-to-face, eye-to-eye interaction. That's very important in forming the initial vibe. Or the initial connection. That's extremely important. It has to be that. It can't be text messaging doesn't cut it. Talking on the phone doesn't cut it. None of that cuts it. What matters is that first eye-to-eye interaction. That's how human beings have been created to interact and connect with one another. So that's a crucial time. If you go to the movies, I mean, other than, the car ride you had over there, and maybe you had the little dinner that you had to rush out of to go to the movies, you're feeling rushed, and that's messing the flow up. But at the movies, you're paying attention to the movie. You're not talking with each other. You're not looking at each other. You're not looking at her body language. You're not getting to know her. Vice versa for women. Y'all not having any real kind of genuine interaction. Y'all just kind of sitting next to each other. And that's a wasted chance to form a connection right there. If you got to do a second date, she could have other options. There could be other men she's going out with, and they know what they doing, and they hook it up on the first date, and then you asked out. So you really got to take that serious. But distractions, to go back to the movies is one thing. I've been on dates before where, we've gone to restaurants, and there was somebody who was drunk at the restaurant, talking all loud, laughing all loud, being all kind of, cause that's messing my game up. That's messing my interaction and my conversation up. Your conversation is everything on the first date. And how you carry yourself and how you sell yourself is crucial. You need to be captivating her with your speech, with your language, with your conversation. You need to be showing how wise you are, like how worldly you are, how smart you are, how intelligent you are, how witty you are, how quickly you are on your toes. That's what you should be doing on the first date. And if you're somewhere in public, it's hard to do that, especially, all these restaurants are loud. You try to take it to the bar, that's going to be loud. It's a bunch of people having random nonsense conversations with you that you got to engage in. And you're like, hey, I'm on a date. Hey, man, dude, what do you think about the Rangers? That's real. That's very distracting from each other. You don't want that. It's very distracting from each other. You really don't want that. You're trying to sell yourself. You're not trying to sell the environment around you at a restaurant. You're trying to show that person how awesome you are, not, wherever you took her. Just speaking strictly from a dude's perspective. And the other thing is, and the last point I'll make is if, someone invites you to their crib, and I kind of touched on the humility thing with the cooking earlier, but to me, that's a very humble act. I'm letting you into the place I bust my butt at bust my butt and get a 9 to 5 for. I'm letting you in here. I'm letting you in my space. I'm letting you in my shelter, into my home where I live my life at. And I don't even really know you like that. That's a very humble act. To let someone in your house and your living space, and I don't know about everybody else, but my home is sacred. This is sacred territory. This is where I live my life at. This is where I pray at. This is where I work at. This is where I make a living at. This is where I've gone through agonizing times, where I've triumphed. This is the place where all my memories are. And I'm letting you into all that. I'm letting you into my experience. That's a very humble act. And, if you're the right type of man or woman, you can appreciate something like that. If someone invites you into your crib, to me, that will be an honor that you get and let me over to your crib. There's nothing creepy about that. Now, to address why, and I want to switch gears, and I want to kind of talk to the dudes. And again, I'm a man, so I'm giving this perspective, but it's from a dude standpoint. If you're a dude, if you're gonna do this, and again, you don't have to have the first date at the crib. I'm just saying, for the sake of, basically for the reason I wanted to have this discussion. And if this happens, or if you choose to do this, if you're gonna ask a woman to on the first date to your house, make sure it really is your job to make sure she's comfortable in that particular act. Now, if you're gonna ask a woman to your house on the first date, you should have you don't do that on the first time talking. Your first general interaction, when you get her phone number or you give her yours and y'all contact each other, you don't ask that off the bat. Let me clarify that and make sure you understand that. That's not something you ask right off the bat. That's something you ask once you form a connection through, and that's that real basic connection I was talking about earlier, where you're texting back and forth. You're getting general information about each other. You're getting general kind of characteristics. You're kind of learning about each other on the most basic level. It's your job as the man to make her feel comfortable with coming to your apartment. It's your job to show her that she's not in any or to present a case to her that she's not in any harm. Now, how do you do that? Because I know, a lot of women out there are like, well, guys can be really, shady and crafty and run a good game. And I hear you. So that leads me straight to my first point. You as a dude should know that. You as a dude should know the climate that we're in. You as a dude should know the rape culture and the misogyny and all that. And how women are viewed as less than human. You should know all that going into even talking to a female. So one of the best ways to let a woman know she's not in danger is just say, hey, I know what you have to deal with. I'm aware of the situation. I'm aware of the climate. One of the best ways is just acknowledging that exists. That kind of, social climate we live in even exists, where the fact that she has to worry about me murdering her by her coming to my place shouldn't have to exist. That she shouldn't have to have those feelings. You hear me? So the way that you do that is like, let's say if I were single and I were to ask a woman out on the first date. Now granted, we've been talking a while. We've got some basic information about each other. How old are you? Where do you work at? You got any kids? That whole blah, blah, blah. What do you like to do? What's your favorite color? All that stuff. If I were to ask her, I would say, look, I want I would love to ask, I want to get to know you better, because really that's what dating is designed for, is to get to know each other better. We're dating because we're trying to know each other better. So I would say, I'm trying to get to know you better. Excuse me, I would really like to ask you out sometime so I can do that. And I know what the climate is. Now, I ask you this, but I know what the climate is. I know how things are in society. So in order for you to, and I know that you have to worry about things I don't, statistically speaking. So with that being said, if you come to I want to invite you to my apartment. I would like to have you over at my house. I would like to have you for dinner at my condo or wherever you live, my trailer, shoot. My damn hut. I know the climate, so I want you to text message some people at least 5 people or whoever. Text them my address. Let them know where you're gonna be at. If you get here and you need to call them and say, hey, I'm at so and so's, and if you need me to speak for you and say, hey, this is where she's at, this is where you can find her, I'm totally cool with that. And see, what that does is that lets her know that you're cognizant of the things she has to worry about. Here's my address. Meet me here. Let everybody I'm perfectly fine with that. And number 2, what that also does is that also says, I'm willing to put myself in a little bit of danger too, because I don't know who you're giving my address to. You could be somebody trying to set me up, all I know. And if you don't think that women set men up to get robbed and kidnapped and all kind of crazy stuff, just Google that. That happens. Men are not totally free from worry when it comes to dating. There's stuff we got to worry about too. There's other things there's things we have to worry about as well. Women I've known men who've been set up by women who got robbed, whatever. That happens. So what that says is I'm putting myself a little bit at risk too. This is a trade-off. And number 2, to get a woman to trust you, it's 2 things. It's kind of, I gotta break it into 2 parts. Number 1, you by the way you interact with her, by the way you message her and talk to her. I say, and I again, the best way to make a connection is face to face, but I say the best way to really kind of solidify that the first initial connection is to talk on the phone and have your conversation game ready. Be able to articulate yourself and really communicate with her and show her who you are. Be ready to give specifics about your life, what your goals are, what your ambitions are, and then you elaborate on that on the first date. But you need to give kind of a general cover letter. It's kind of like a cover letter. The resume is the second interaction, which is your first date. But number two, I would say, is basically just learning to listen. Learning to listen to her. And I kind of mentioned that a little bit, ask her. Learning to listen is one of the most effective ways you listen is knowing which questions to ask. Knowing which questions to ask that actually matter. knowing which questions to ask that really allow her to tell, really allow her to tell a lot, or to sell herself. Because the thing is, it should go both ways. The woman should ask certain questions that allow the man to sell himself, the things that are important. And, again, that would have to go back to you as the dude, because, like, what do you really want? What do you really want to know? What's pertinent to you? If you don't know what's pertinent to you and what's important, you're not going to know what to ask. So you need to come with that ready when you talk to her. And let her sell herself and elaborate. Oh, you're majoring in biochemistry? Okay. What got you interested in that? Because the thing is, there's something comforting about someone who knows, and again, this might sound contradictory, because you're like, if someone knows something intimate about me, they could use that to harm me. However, there's something comforting about that, because if you tell people certain information, if a woman can sell herself to you and you promote that and actually provide as function as a catalyst for that, the more you know about other people, or the woman that you're interested in, the better you can cater to her. So once she's told you those things, and you're doing little small things to cater to her, if she told you she's allergic to damn shellfish, and you didn't serve that, but or even in my case, if I'm allergic to gluten, and somebody brings me over a gluten-free pizza, that makes me feel extra safe, because that lets me know you're listening. That lets me know that you're not so so obsessed or so hell-bent on an ulterior bad motive, that you're busy listening, that you're busy taking notes, that you're busy studying me in a good way, that you're busy paying attention to what I'm saying, as opposed to how can I deceive and manipulate her. It gets real deep. Now, switch gears here for a little bit. What I want to talk about now is the main reason I wanted to do this podcast. My main reason behind doing it was because I didn't want women thinking that basically this is the way I can know if I can get to trust him. Because the whole going out on the first date is a very traditional thing. All traditions ain't good. That's just something, that's kind of old school way of thinking. That's a very old school way of thinking. Now, based off what I just said to the fellas, women, you can kind of use that based off what I said to kind of determine if the guy is trustworthy or not. Is he listening to specifics of yours? Is he just kind of going off that little general, what's your favorite color kinds of questions? What's your favorite movie kind of questions? Those questions aren't bad, but if he's just asking you really shallow stuff and not real in-depth stuff, like I really want to get to know you so I can cater, so I can compliment to you, that's a red flag. If he is not the type of person or the type of man that says, I understand, my experience is different from your experience, and acknowledges that, that's a red flag. If something's kind of, and again, shout out to the person who inspired this. If something sounds kind of fishy, like he says, hey, I want to meet in person, and it kind of switches it up. Well, I was going to meet you in person, but I had a stomach ache, and I didn't want to go to the restaurant, but the restaurant's closed now, but you can come over here because the stomach ache is gone. That's real funny style. Stuff like that. Little subtle alterations in the plans that we could go here, and y'all go in there, and it's like, you know what, forget there, let's go to my crib. It's like, we made plans for here. I'm gonna need to get to know, and all that being said, if you feel like, hey, I need to get to know you better, then tell the dude that, challenge him. I need to get to know you better before I can come to your crib on the first date. If you're really serious about it being a legitimate first date where I'm safe, and you're really concerned for my safety, and you really take my experience as a woman seriously. Because there's all kinds of red flags you can pick up on. Also, if he's asking to go to the first date to the crib too soon, y'all a couple of sentences, hey, so what kind of food do you like? Oh, I like Italian. All right. What's your favorite movie? Oh, Scarface. Okay. Well, when do you want to come to the crib and we can watch it? That type of stuff, that's a red flag. Also, if he's not exhibiting symptoms of humility, like, hey, if I would ask a lady to my house on the first date, that's why the cooking thing is important. And buying tacos and ordering pizza, that's cool too. But the cooking thing says I'm going to be humble enough to you, not only to invite you to my crib, but I'm going to provide the service. That's a very humble thing. Without getting too much into being, a simp. So these are things you can look out for. What's his humility like? How's his manners? Manners are huge in all kinds of relationships, whether it be business partnerships, whether it be whatever kind of ships you into, friendships. Manners are huge. Manners are a very accurate depiction of somebody's integrity. I say please and thank you to my homeboys just like I say them to total random strangers. That's because I'm a man of integrity. I'm very polite. I'm very friendly to everybody I meet. I'm real big into shaking hands and holding doors and saying you're welcome and excuse me. Because that really what that's saying is I acknowledge you as a human being. You're a human being and I respect you as a human being. So what's his manners like from the time he gets your phone number to the time y'all are talking? Does he use please and thank you? And does he call you ma'am? And I know that makes a lot of women feel old. That doesn't mean that you're old. It means that I don't know you like that, and I respect that. I got to get to know you before I can start calling you by your first name like that. These are some things that help determine if a dude is on some Jeffrey Dahmer nonsense or not. And I really want the ladies the ladies and the men out there. The men, like I said, women set men up too. We got to worry about certain things too. We have to worry about date, rape, drugs, and all that stuff too. All this organ harvesting stuff, look into that. Women are complicit in that. A lot of women are complicit in human trafficking with children and stuff. A lot of women are complicit in that. Granted, it happens more with the men, with the men. But men, y'all need to be safe too. But women, I want y'all to hear these tips and hear the advice I've given you, and hear all the things I said about the brothers and what the sisters can do to figure out what kind of guy the person is. Use that to be the determining factor on whether he's a creeper or not. Not, oh, did he take me to so-and-so restaurant on the first date, or did he take me out to Starbucks on the first date, or did we meet in public on the first date? That doesn't really mean a lot. I would argue that doesn't really mean anything. That's just kind of a social norm that a lot of real creepers and real rapists and real killers out there can learn to play on to seduce you to coming over to their crib, and then they tying you up and duct taping your ass. Anyways, but that's been this edition of the Levels of Love Tips number 12. I hope I was able to give some really insightful information. If you like what I'm doing and the message I'm getting out, my goal is to inform the people of whatever I know. The better equipment and stuff I have, the better the more effectively I can get that message out. Please consider making a contribution to all the links that I provided in the description. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions about anything dealing with relationships. I know a great deal. Message me at tsp@thestormypoet.com. Feel free to message me through my contact boards on both my websites. I'm always glad to holler and chop it up with any one of you. And Don't forget, if you are interested in my merchandise, I'm on Amazon. Just type in The Stormy Poet. Both of my books are on there. You can buy them through my website. And I hope to communicate further with all of you, and I hope I was able to provide you with some good information tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to speak with all of you soon. Feel free to shoot me episode ideas. I will talk about anything y'all want me to talk about. And I'm very, very glad you were able to tune in tonight. I will holler at everyone later. Peace.